Howdy folks. This video is about the final step in our writing process, and that's going to be doing revisions and editing of our drafts. So I want to give you a visual representation of the difference between revising and editing. Revising is those big structural changes. That's where if you're renovating a house, you're going to destroy this wall and build a new wall. That's revision. So the paper equivalent would be, I need to rewrite this entire paragraph, or I need to change the structure of my essay because it's not working. Editing is making things look pretty. That's where you go through and make sure all your commas are in the right place, make sure all your spelling errors are corrected, make sure it's in MLA format. Because what you don't want to do is spend half an hour editing your paper where you go through and you fix all the commas and spelling errors, and then you realize, oh, I need to rewrite this entire paragraph, and then you have to just go through and edit again. Do your heavy lifting first, then go through and make it look pretty last. So let's start with revising. There's a term in writing that's called, or a phrase in writing that's called, kill your darlings. So you spend a lot of time pouring your thoughts and your blood, your sweat, your tears into your own writing, and it becomes really difficult to extract yourself from it, to kind of take an objective view and say, is this writing good enough? Is it doing what I need and want it to do? So you have to be willing to kill that what you worked so hard for. So if I spent a long time writing a paragraph, I have to be willing to press delete on that paragraph and totally rewrite it, build it up from scratch. And this is just a part of the writing process. We have to be okay with change and understand that it's going to take time to go through these revisions. So be willing to move, rewrite, break paragraphs, rewrite sentences, double check your transitions, revise your claims and your theses and your topic sentences, and realize that any change you might affect changes down in the rest of your essay too. So you really need to give yourself time to revise and edit and change things. And that's okay, that through this process of revision, you're going to become a stronger writer and your product's going to get stronger. So there's definitely a process to this, some steps that you want to take. So first off, when you're revising, make sure you are aligning what you're writing to the purpose and task of what you need to be doing. So double check, did I follow directions? Did I answer all of the questions? Or did I miss an entire prompt or part of a prompt that I need to go back and add in? And then lastly, did you do what you wanted to do? Like you had a purpose in writing this. Did you fulfill that purpose or need? And then the second part of revision is going to be kind of a process of discovery. And this is where you go through and you recognize what is strong with my writing, what could improve with my writing, and then make time and a plan to change and revise that, right? If you feel like this paragraph is weak or just falls flat or is kind of boring, recognize that and make a plan on how you could change it. So some things you might want to do when you're going through and doing that content revision, you might be adding things to make your evidence more clear, your reasoning more clear. You might be adjusting your claims. You might be removing things, right? Because you might have a sentence or a whole paragraph that doesn't necessarily fit into the writing task. You need to be willing to get rid of those things. If it's not helping you answer a question or show what you're needing to show, get rid of it and come up with something that does. And then lastly is kind of just that refining, polishing of ideas, not necessarily of language, but of ideas. Ultimately, the two questions that I take a look at when I revise and evaluate every sentence in a paper that I write, what am I trying to show? Does this sentence help me do that? Or does it lead to something that's going to help me do that? If I can't really answer these two questions, my revision is not going to be that pointed and direct. The other type of revision we might do is kind of structural revision, where we recognize the organization of our paper and our writing, and we switch it up, right? So this might be your sequence of paragraphs as a whole. This might be the logic of sentences within a paragraph that don't quite line up and you need to revise. You might think through, what am I using for introductions or conclusions to my paragraphs? I might be evaluating my transitions. Those are all pieces of structural revision you should look at and criticize and evaluate and say, like, am I doing a good job? Am I showing what I need to show? Is this writing making sense? Okay, so I want you to press pause right here and jot down what are two things that you remember about revision. I'll give you time to do that. Do a little recall. All right, did you do it? Cool. So next part and last part is the idea of editing. And this is, I think of it, if we're using our building a house analogy for writing a paper, The last thing you want to do, or one of the last things you want to do, is like make your rooms look nice in the house. You don't want to paint your walls and put all the art and put the furniture in there and then realize, oh, we need to move one of these walls, or I didn't put in a window here. Because if you punch that window, if you move that wall, you're going to need to go back through and do those finishing touches again. You're going to need to take all of your artwork and furniture out. You're going to need to repaint your walls. So do this last. This is the last thing you should be checking before you turn in your paper. And some steps to helping you do this is number one, read your paper aloud. Because if you are stumbling as you read it, that usually means that there's something awkward about your sentences or your phrasing. And this also makes you read every word on the paper. And so if you notice something that's wrong, you can circle it, come back to edit it. This is where you should be scrutinizing kind of your word choice, or looking for words that you're not supposed to use. So if your essay is not supposed to use I, here's where you're really going through with a fine tooth comb and finding and circling, highlighting all of those words that you're not supposed to use, or thinking about, is there another word or phrase that I could use that would improve this sentence, right? That's that smaller kind of finesse thing. And then lastly, make sure you have those final touches in there. If I asked you to put it in MLA format, put it in MLA format. Do a side-by-side comparison, right? Just Google MLA format essay. It's going to come up with examples for you if you don't know what I'm talking about. And then just physically look, does my paper look exactly like a good example of MLA format? Another thing that you might want to think about is don't use grammar that you don't know. If you're like, I'm not really sure how to use a semicolon, don't use semicolons. There's restructure your sentences that you don't have to use those grammar ideas that you're not totally familiar with. And then make sure you're turning on that spell check. Like you're literally sitting at a Google machine. There's no reason why you should get any word misspelled here. Give yourself time to do that. All right, folks, good luck in the revising and editing process. I believe you know, and I'm excited to read your essays.